welcome back to Watching Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. And yes, we're talking about the new petrol price, pump price that you would have experienced, how that's going to affect commodities. It's Commodities Day today, Thursday, and we're having that conversation with Dumebi Oluwole, senior analyst with financial derivatives. Hi, Dumebi.
Hi, Amy. Good morning.
Good morning. So we have new prices. Obviously, by now, transportation has already changed.
Yes.
And perhaps you had old stock, food stock in your house, so you're still enjoying. But trust me, by this weekend, you want to go to the market, you're going to feel the new prices.
Yes.
And I don't think it's something that we're going to smile. And unfortunately, it's at the period when we thought it's harvest time, so we can at least maximize the drop in prices.
I mean, one thing that we try to look at is the immediate shock of this, and we do realize that actually a lot of transporters have actually been paying fuel price at higher than what it is currently. So to an extent, the immediate shock on commodity prices or the broader market might not be as significant, because people have already been experiencing this shock at least for the last week or two. But clearly, as we go on into the year, we'll definitely see that pass-through effect of higher petrol prices on food prices, when we're now looking at food coming in from northern states into other states like Lagos.
And the borders are still open.
Exactly.
Till December.
Yes. So, and then so primarily what we're saying is right now, we might not see that huge shock in commodity prices across the market, simply because markets have already been paying this high petrol price, and that's already been factored into their commodity prices, the pricing. So, but then going forward into the year, we do expect that we will begin to on new stock coming into the market. We'll definitely see that have an impact. But then again, we're also looking at the other segment of the import waiver that's already been instated, the borders being opened, also kind of like the impact of the harvest season, which will definitely have that impact of petrol prices. But we do expect that the import waiver we expect the impact of the import waiver to somewhat offset the high logistics cost on commodity prices, at least for the time being.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that, Dumebi, because we do know that there's something we notice, and I think that's one of the reasons why FCCPC, the Federal Commission, they're talking about consumers being exploited.
Yes.
Because I mean, you can just be here. Perhaps you want to take a cab or something, and the price is changing right before you.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. I don't know
about the delayed.
So when I say the delayed effect, it doesn't mean the prices might not change. But what I'm saying is people are already purchasing commodities at very high prices already. For instance, think of a transporter that probably brought in their goods after the truck obviously would use diesel, getting diesel at about 1,000 naira per liter already, then brings it into Lagos. The small car owner that will take the product, take the commodities from maybe a beggar to a Sura market or an Oimbo market, or even a nearby market, would probably have to have purchased, petrol at the black market rate, so maybe 950 or even 1,100. So primarily that product, when it finally gets to the wholesaler or the retailer, the impact of the transportation cost is already factored into that price. So when you go to the market today, you're already buying commodities worth, that is already capturing the increased price of the commodity. So the NNPC is just announcing it. Really, people have been purchasing commodities and petrol prices at these high prices, right? So what this now means is commodity prices are definitely going to remain high, right? And it's really not going to change. But what we're saying is going into the last quarter of the year, we do expect that the import waiver, the harvest season to an extent, where would obviously have some positive impact. It might not cushion everything completely. Prices will still be high, but at least to an extent, first of all, there will be supply to an extent. We might not see like ridiculous increase in commodity prices. And by ridiculous, I mean you might not see a bag of rice jumping from like 85,000 to 110,000. That's what I mean by ridiculous.
Okay, so we saw a reduction in inflation.
Yes.
Last month.
Yes.
So we're expecting for the month of July now.
Yeah,
for the month of August.
Yes.
Beg your pardon. Now, but all of this happened in August, so we should expect another tapering in August. Or what do you see?
So Two things. The first one is the decline in prices in July in inflation was primarily driven by base effect. So if you look at the month-on-month numbers, you see that there was a significant increase in the month-on-month inflation numbers for July 2023. So coming into July 2024, the shock that happened in July 2023 was no longer present, and so it just obviously tapered off, and that's why we saw that decline in inflation. But when you look at the core inflation rate, that's the underlying inflation rate, you see that inflation also increased. Then you also look at the 12-month average for the headline inflation, food inflation, core inflation. You also see that inflation actually increased across board. Now, what does that just tell us? It tells us basically that inflationary pressures are still very much potent. So even if we might expect a slight disinflationary trend because of base effects, it doesn't change the fact that underlying inflation is still very much potent, and the factors driving inflation is still are still very high. From high logistics costs like we're seeing now, petrol prices, diesel prices. Then you also factor in the exchange rate, because when you even look at the fact that even though they're going to be getting, there's the import waiver. Let's not forget that they're still bringing these goods in, right? And to an extent, it still costs something.
And the naira
still factor it.
Yeah.
Exactly. And a very good way to kind of imagine how this import waiver will kind of work is with the retail Dutch auction that happened. So you see that there was a price floor basically at around 1,400, I think 75 naira to $1. That's kind of how you can expect the import waiver to work. So businesses will still definitely feel some pinch from the exchange rate, but might just not be as detrimental as buying commodities by using like the parallel rate thereabout. But as for inflation rate for the August inflation rate numbers, we still expect a marginal disinflationary trend, and that's because again you have to consider the period that the NBS, captures does its survey, and that happens within the first 2 to 3 weeks of the month. That happens in the first 2 to 3 weeks of the month. So when we didn't see all of this shock,
August numbers are not.
Yeah, so the August numbers will definitely not reflect all of this that is happening at the beginning of September.
Yeah, okay, so it's the September numbers.
The September numbers September numbers will obviously capture this.
Yeah, because this is our first week in September, and we're seeing all of this. Now, let's put those things into numbers and see the price. I mean, average price of Gary, you see it dropped.
Yes, just marginally.
Yeah, marginal. But rice, flour, and these are the products or the commodities that are even supposed to be enjoying the import waiver. Suspension. So I wonder why.
Remember, there's going to be a lag effect, right? So when you purchase your goods, they don't come in immediately, and there's a whole process that's definitely going to be involved with the import waiver. Remember, they have to apply to get it and all of that. So by the time they eventually start getting those inventory, right, we might see that price decline happen. So this is primarily just reflecting old stock. And I remember I did mention to you that we're already seeing the impact of the high petroleum, prices on high petrol prices reflecting commodity price, and this is just basically what
logistics and transport.
Yes, obviously affects all of this.
And then we also see pepper. Yes, pepper had tomatoes is on change.
Yes,
but we did enjoy, or we are still enjoying.
Yes, we're still enjoying
pepper and tomatoes
to an extent. Yeah, yes. and the tomatoes that we're seeing now are really nice ones.
That's a woman talking, right?
Yes,
and then plantain also is back
so the harvest planting season actually is one of the reasons why we're seeing plantains actually we're seeing the prices up.
So it's back to planting season now for plantain.
Not necessarily. So we're going to start seeing it come back out, but I'm saying that before now, because the planting season is towards the end of this third quarter, going into the harvest season rather.
Yeah, I was
harvest season is going towards the end of the third quarter into the fourth quarter for plantains. So we're going to start seeing the price of plantain actually start reducing pretty soon.
Okay, so let's keep our fingers crossed.
Yes.
If you're a plantain lover, this is the time. But I mean, we do hope that by the time we get this, maybe next week or so, we'll see the sipping.
Yes, we can start drawing some parallels. Between the import waiver and because by next week we should have at least about 2 weeks, or even up to a month worth of lag period to be able to factor in the impact of the import waiver. Because it kicked in August 14th.
Maybe what do you see this Christmas? Last Christmas wasn't so good.
I mean, this Christmas.
We're in the ember month, so start
thinking about. I mean, I think the usual thing is still going to happen, where we'll see, high demand to an extent, people preparing for the festive period. We're going to see businesses stocking up for that period, and I do see businesses try and take advantage of this import waiver, at least for that period. We'll also see on-trade segment of businesses still kick up, and by on-trade segment I mean like the clubs, festivals. We're going to obviously see all of that, but the prices of all of those things, ticket prices of this, are definitely going to be,
they're going to capture the realities.
Yes, they're going to be higher. So basically things are still going to happen to an extent the way we've seen it before, but obviously that squeeze in consumption will definitely tell on how people prioritize their expenses for the environment.
But a miracle can still happen.
I mean, we're looking forward to it.
All right, maybe thank you so much for your time.